Good morning and welcome to office hours. I almost said extra hours. So used to hosting on that day. Filling in here today for Alexander Knight, who's traveling abroad. Today we're going to be fielding questions, and we've only got a couple in right now. So if you guys want to pump in some questions, look under your notes and see if you might have some that you want to have our illustrious panel. We're graced by JJ McKenna's presence today, so networking questions would be great to field today. We also got Craig McFarland. Let's go ahead, Craig, and read that first question.
From Roscoe Jones of Madison, Indiana, do you agree with a list of skills to become an excellent editor? Storytelling and pacing, proficient in a top-level editing app, audio editing and mixing, color correction and grading, motion graphics, organization, and people skills.
Interesting. So I used to teach Final Cut back in the early aughts, and that's an interesting mix there because it really does come down to story, but sometimes you're handed the pieces of the puzzle, and usually there is a nice script so that you can align everything and make sure that it all goes back in the order. But there is a lot of judgment calls that you get to make. Depends on who started the project and at what point you were involved in it. JJ, what do you think?
So I got a great lesson from Mr. Fenwick early on, and the thing I see missing from here is making sure your files are in order. So organizing and knowing where your files are, having some idea of what all those files include. And right now, a few weeks ago, we had an extra hours or a special hours or something like that with the folks from Storyboom, and that interface is specifically about creating a storyline that you can then match all the clips that you need. And I'm helping with that project. And what I found, because I'm not really talking to people very much, the editors that I've chatted with too, they don't necessarily talk to people. They're looking at the clips and the timeline, what's available, what the content is, and then getting from the director, whoever the director might be, or whatever the story indicates, ways to make sure that you have the right clips. So what I see missing from here is, I guess, organizational people skills. So the penultimate item on this list, making sure that your files are organized and accessible in such a fashion that you can quickly access the content you want.
Yeah, it's something to take a look at as far as corporate versus educational versus broadcast versus film, because documentaries, there's a lot of footage. Usually you have a ratio of 100 to 1, or sometimes you just get so much footage that you need an assistant to comb through it. So it really depends on the project and what level, because somebody might just do what we call selects, put the selects in, and that way the editor that's finishing the project can actually go in and start to tighten everything up and change the pacing and look at all the shots that they have and not have to go through all the bad takes and the not so great takes. But yeah, having the skills in whatever it is, Avid, Premiere, usually the well-versed folks are multi-talented at the highest end. The Avid is still the reigning king. But depending, like Chris Fenwick, he's got mastery in Final Cut, but you throw him in Premiere or DaVinci, and he may be like fish out of water. So it depends on the tool and what kind of stuff you're pumping out. Because the TikTok generation, when I see these fast cuts, these really jump cuts, like we used to try to avoid those. Now they're encouraged. So it depends on knowing your audience and what the pacing is. Because yeah, you could just need to cut every less than 5 seconds, which is the attention span of somebody with ADHD. So I mean, it's one of those things where you go, how fast you need to go, and what story. Like in a commercial, you're trying to condense a lot into 30 seconds, and then you got to remember: are you educating? Are you trying to do something like with politics, where you're trying to sway? So you only have so many images and so much time and so much pacing to make it all work. Let's go ahead and go to the next question.
Next question is from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. Craig, what is happening today related to ShowHub? Testers have given feedback. What are 2 or 3 app RFIs that improve the user experience?
Go ahead, Craig.
I could take that in a whole bunch of ways. So for folks that don't know, we help. We have a number of spreadsheets that we've cobbled together to organize all the logistics of signing up for the crew of the show, and to do that every day. There's a lot of complexity to the spreadsheets, and there's a number of them because they also roll up to emails and other things on the website. And doing all of that, there's a whole bunch of automation. And so you make a change in a website or the direction you go from a process or role, and a whole bunch of stuff has to change. And so with the recent AI availability of vibe coding things, I put together a new platform that does everything we wanted to do with spreadsheets, but couldn't because they're spreadsheets. And as part of that, took some of the excellent process of taking room for improvement kinds of things, aimed that to the app. And so we've had 140 or so different comments, and either, hey, this is a bug, or it could be, hey, here's an idea where we could take that, which is just amazing. It's the diversity of how people use a given app and the diversity of where they might want to take it is just way bigger than any one engineer developer type, where I can see, oh, well, here's the structure, but then you give it to people and they use it for things you wouldn't have even thought of. So I'm just super excited to see where people that are in individual roles, how it can help them, how we can all collaborate on what's the best option. So we've been testing for a little bit now, and as I said, we've got a lot of feedback. And we're going to do I think right after the show, we're going to do some training where we can go through some steps that may not be as obvious.
That's awesome. I'm becoming very aware of scope creep. And how are you actually keeping track of all these requests and deciding which ones to implement? And are you putting it in like a GitHub or something, or is it just a spreadsheet, or how are you keeping track of all this stuff? Because I'm on the same boat where I'm still learning.
Yeah. So that would be, so as an engineer for whatever, past 30, 50 years, there's a process of requirements and then spec and then build or prototype and then build and test and launch, and all that's blown away because somebody can suggest something and it takes me longer to type it on how that feature should work than it does to produce it. And so that with AI, that completely upended the whole standard process mechanism. And so the big effort isn't the development part. It's, do I know enough about this process? What are the adverse effects if I roll out this feature? Is it well defined enough? But as soon as that is well defined, it's like, okay, great, there it is. Almost right away. I've had some meetings where someone had an idea, and before the meeting was done, it was already rolled out. And so whether it's a community type platform like ShowHub or an individual thing, the more people are expert at their needs, the better outcome you'll have. And the more practice you have at describing those needs to the AI that's building it, the better outcome you'll have. Having done this for a long time, that translation comes natural. So I had a lower learning curve, but I'm missing that first part for everybody else of what are your needs? I know my needs, and so I can vibe code my own stuff pretty well, but I can't necessarily vibe code for a community because I'm missing all that. What are their difficulties? What do they need to go farther than they can with the current tools? And so to answer your question, I added a little piece where people can put that request into the app itself, and then they can look at the list, and in the list they can see their own, but they can also see now all the others because we're a community, and it is really helpful to build.
Where does that reside? Where does that list reside?
Yeah, it's in the app. So if you go on the menu, click on App RFI, and click on the Show List, you can see it all. And the cool part is you can see not just what people have put in, but where I've prioritized it and what stage it's in any sort of comments.
That's exciting because
it's all right in there.
You've got years of experience, and a lot of us in the community are starting to realize that we're behind the eight ball. We grew up in a different era, trying to do different things, and relied on people like you that are developers to suss these things out. And now it's moving so fast. But I've never had a community where I could just say, "Hey, what do you want? We're going to pivot on a dime, just right away." Add this feature. And so I'm developing a couple apps. I've got 3 or 4 kind of in the queue, but I don't have this immediate feedback like you have. I'm just kind of asking AI like, oh, what do you think we should do with this? And then it says, I think we should do that. And then next thing you know, this thing that was supposed to just be a little task manager turns into like a full-blown CRM with, it's got crazy budgeting and quoting and all that stuff. It's like, how did I get here? What the heck happened? But I'm thankful that the community is up for testing and helping, and thank you for driving this thing, because I have a feeling that once people see, like today we had not a full schedule, and I'd love to see that well in advance so we could head it off at the pass. And I think that that's what tools like this do, is they allow us to see the need, feel the impact, and then see what happens if you don't pay attention to it. It's like, yeah, the train's coming. You're going to get hit by the train. Get off the tracks. It's coming. Yeah. So that's that's the simple kindergarten explanation of what ShowHub does. It allows us not to get hit by the train. All right, let's go to the next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. Is it a bad practice to ask what a budget is at the beginning of a discussions about a client's project? At what point during negotiations with a client should you ask what the budget is?
JJ.
So I loved Richard's answer to this. A couple years ago, I approached him regarding doing a live stream for one of my neighbors. We were doing, again, something similar to the same related project, Way Cool World. And he asked in the beginning, what's your budget? And his request for that is, I will build whatever you can afford. I will build what you ask. And a lot of us work in that diagram, good, fast, cheap, right? Or good, fast, expensive, however you want to say that. But you can have 2 of those items at any one time, but usually not 3. So you can't have good and cheap and fast. You can't have fast and good and cheap. You have to choose within that diagram which one you want. So Richard, approached and responded saying, "What's the budget you have? And based on the budget that you have, then I can build. I can proffer. This is what we can do with the scope of your budget." And I love that answer, because as a person who loves to build things, I will just keep on building. Like I will iterate and spend lots and lots of personal time trying to come up with a product that might not meet what your requirement is. And unfortunately, I picked up a 3D printer, and that means that I have like lots of prints of things when people say, "Hey, I want a Savant mud ring," and I'm like, I can do it brown. I can put a front flange on it or a back flange on it. And me personally, for the things that I make, I can absolutely spend way too much time refining the product based off of what my desires are. But if you give me a budget, then I can say, okay, I'll limit the iterations on what you're looking for to X number of trials, X number of attempts. And I think that helps ensure that if you want to have repeat clients, those same repeat clients understand how you work. So is it bad practice? I'd say it might depend on the kind of business that you want to have. Like, do you want to have people who are just momentary clients, or do you want to have long-term clients, people with whom you have relationships and you learn what their desires are, learn what the kind of whether or not you can work with each other long-term. And if you do, then having those frank conversations, I think creates a large level of trust with the clients that, if you can afford to have long-term clients and stay in a field that allows you to sustain your family, sustain your needs, sustain your business model based off of that idea. But I think that it creates early honesty and trust.
Nice. Craig.
Yeah, I agree with everything JJ said. As far as the 3 legs of project management and engineering and other things. I think if you go into it and you sidestep the whole budget thing, it always feels like either they're like it's some weird negotiating tact that has this disconnect of what we're going to end up with, or they might not know. And so for my own business, it is very upfront of, do you have budget limits? And then if they're reluctant, we'll lay out a couple of different options. Well, this kind of thing costs this range, this kind of approach costs this range, and we're not going to negotiate our price. We'll negotiate scope, and that at least gives them things that they can feel like, oh, okay, they really do know what they're talking about. This is going to be we need these things, so it's going to be in this range. And then we're haggling more, negotiating more on scope. As we're not going to just drop our price without changing the scope.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget about the long-term value of a customer. Sometimes it's best to go ahead and eat it on some and then know that you're going to get a recurring revenue from that client. So you just got to think about things long-term and not just about the flash in the pan, because there's a couple of companies I work for here locally that with their long-term relationships with some of them, they're just able to put food on the table. I mean, it's those bread and butter clients that sure, we go out and do these one-offs every once in a while, but those wind up always being more chaotic and crazy. Whereas the ones that we've got a rhythm down, we got all the right gear, we've got the run a show, it's tight, the people know us, we're able to just bang it out. So really think about that when you're setting up what is the time value of a customer. And I've been vibe coding something like this where you actually say that on the opportunity, the client has a budget or price from cost, hit a target price, and then it walks through all the client. This is that project I was talking about that I vibe coded that, it basically spiraled out of control to where now, like, say, for instance, I know that I'm going to need 5 camera ops, so I can put in here that there'll be a camera operator at $750 a day, and then I could add team member, and at the end, after you put all these in here, you could add in a contingency, and it'll actually show you your, let me put a name on this real quick, and review impact. So it'll show you how many hours that you have in a year for yourself, and then it'll help you clarify. Don't commit yet. Get the scope tighter before you price or accept this. So scope is too vague. There are not enough. There are missing details. Too many important details are undefined. So this thing actually helps you make decisions of whether or not you should take a client. So that's for people that are bidding on websites, video productions, that kind of thing, where you can go in here and then at the bottom, I didn't show it, but there's actually a margin slider. So it'll tell you based on your hourly that you're trying to hit, whether you want to be at 10%, 15%, whatever it is. And then are you marking up your little incidentals like do you have to rent some cameras? Do you have to get some lights? Do you have to get a projector or speakers, or is there other labor out there? And how much do you make off that? And make sure that it all works for everybody involved. Or do you need to go back and say, hey, we need to cut back a camera op because we're over budget, or do you want to go ahead and pay for that extra camera op, or do you want better glass or a longer lens? There's all kinds of stuff that goes in there. But great question, Roscoe. Let's go ahead and move to the next one.
Next question comes from Andedol. I had some long vibe coding sessions the past week using the $20 Pro plan. Claude Code usage tool in VScode shows that I already burned $90. How is this possible?
Craig.
So I'm still on the $20 plan, and I've built a ton of apps with it, and I haven't hit the there's session limits, so they don't have everybody spiking their infrastructure, requesting a lot of stuff all at once. So they blend it out because they want smoother operations, and so they put time limits on things, and then every six hours, I don't know what the timing is, they'll reset that allowance or whatever. So you can do it at a lower level. I'd say be sure to pick the lowest cost model that you can. I was using Opus for a little while, and it was giving great feedback and code, but I realized I can do pretty much the same thing with Sonnet 4.6, and that was fine. And it uses a lot less tokens. And if it gets really stuck, or if I have something I really want it to think long and hard, I'll bump it up to Opus. But just switching down to Sonnet. The other thing is, if you can save, if you're building an app and you've got 5 or 6 different sections, focusing on one section at a time and ganging those up. So I'll put in, here's 5 things, and I'll number them, and then end that prompt with, ask me any clarifying questions. And so then it'll go through and say, oh, well, what do you mean by this? And so the fewer round trips can also help. And if you gang things up, that will make it a little bit more efficient.
Nice. Let's go to the next question.
From Mickey Macachor in the Philippines. Explain LECM 5. What are the fundamental differences of a spine leaf, monolithic, and shared purple topologies when designing an AV over IP network?
Sounds like this one was bold right your way, JJ. Go for it.
Well, so I will reflect that currently I'm building an environment that is monolithic, because this same question applies to both 2110 or really like any AVI over IP. So if it's NDI or a combination of what I'm working on right now is AVB, Dante, RTP, MIDI, and NDI all in one environment, all built on a Cisco stack, which I discovered you shouldn't do on a Cisco stack because the DSCP values differ, and you cannot extend those on a stack. You must use them each as individual switches. So you can only define a DSCP value, which is prioritizing QoS per different VLAN, per various VLANs on one switch. So going to the explain LECM 5, if you want Bill and Tom and Mike to be good friends in a train of cars, and each car has certain friends inside each car, and they have certain kinds of conversations, you should make sure that you prioritize the right friends to talk inside of each car that's connected in a train, like a train. So a large train, and inside of each train, and I'm currently defining what would be a spine and leaf, but I am building this like a large spine, oddly enough. So each spine, because I've defined now, I was able to physically segregate the different VLANs per switches. And then what I've done is I've put, instead of a switch stack cable between the 3 switches, which they're the 9300s, which are beautiful, by the way. They're 10 gig ports on each and every single port. So nice. And 25 gig ports on all the modules. So it lots of scaling, at least for the next 5 years. And this is for a small studio build. It's a private facility, private studio build for a private individual. So by building initially a monolithic, which was the intent, I had to split it to a spine leaf, but it's really actually a spine in that. And in this kind of a design, each car has particular people or VLANs attached inside of it, and those VLANs are prioritized based off of the kind of conversation I want to have in there. And that the kind of conversation, when I say that, it's like tuning the frequencies so that not everyone sounds like a flock of seagulls. So with DSCP values, you prioritize the kind of speed you want within the profile of the packets, the kind of packets you're sending across, and within the packet, within a Ethernet packet, or within an Ethernet packet, there are components that you want to have work better, and so you prioritize the speed and prioritize the size within that packet to say, okay, like QSC 56 or And that's the tag within the packet, this portion of that packet, that tag is larger. Things that are tagged into that packet with that value of 36 or 42, those then are preferred within that stream, inside the streams that are built. So again, it'd be like, if you want all the stinky teenage boys in one car of the truck, then you make sure you have lots of those car fresheners inside that one. Whereas people who have allergies or gluten-free requirements, they're in another car of the train. What is fun? So the difference between a spine and leaf is that you have multiple devices that you can then prioritize, and you have to do this when you have multiple VLAN types and multiple types of AV over IP content. So spine and leaf, I've discovered is better for that. Monolithic is excellent when you have only one type of transport they're using. So if it's all 2110 will play with 2110, but 2110 will not play very well with NDI on the same device. So Monolithic is perfect for environments where you only have one type of necessary prioritized traffic. There are kinds of traffic that you don't have to prioritize. Like if you're not using multicast, then you can throw Dante on there, and Dante will work perfectly without too much modifications in the prioritization of the packets. Also, there are certain kinds that kind of grow together or function well together, such as QSC and Dante. They have very similar DSCP value requirements. There's only one additional for QSC traffic. So is
this what Netgear's doing with these profiles, where they're making it simple for guys like me that just want to come in and be the 5-year-old and just hit a button? Or so is this like if I want to do NDI and Dante, like a lot of our audience does that on the same network? How does this question fall in line with those differences?
So I'm going to try to be as positive as I can about that long 4-letter word. For engineers, there's a few 4-letter words. Just is one of those 4-letter words. Netgear has become a 4-letter word for me. Only because they did a really good job at trying to target a particular market at a very critical time in human history. And then they stopped developing very much of that, and they spent a lot more time, and actually the community, everyone spent a lot of time saying, hey, these are great, install them. It just works. I've heard that slogan before. It just works. It just doesn't. In fact, the Netgears early on, they would not allow you to access the management VLAN. For a secondary VLAN, you have to either use the out of band or attach the out of band to a separate interface. And those things are really imperative to have in a professional system. Or if you got a little tiny system and you don't care, then go ahead and install a Netgear. But for 2110 or for, I find it very unlikely that the Olympic broadcast folks had a single Netgear anything in that environment. I find it highly unlikely. They more likely had Aristas, maybe a Mellanox, and a whole lot of Cisco. But that 4-letter word probably wasn't in use there. So to answer your question about Netgear, what Netgear did is they created some cute little buttons that let you click on a thing and then say, okay, this now creates a profile that prefers these DSCP values. And in the Netgear world, you can also modify those. You can create your own profiles that let you click a button. I'm not a very big fan of click on a thing and verify it works. I'm more of a fan of type in the thing and see the line where I can confirm that's prioritized, that kind of traffic, and then I can see that traffic and see the performance of that traffic function. In the Netgear Advanced panel, you can do that actually. So the Netgear, the 4250s, you can go to the Advanced, which that's the one I usually use. But yes, the DSCP value is built into the Netgear easy button interface. That I think was the intention. I just haven't found that they deliver very well. And they don't deliver very well for people who are like me, who want to see and verify, yes, this is indeed functioning the way you expect it to.
Man, I could just let you go on and on and on. And I know I love having you on the show, and I love hearing all this, and I want to totally geek out. But I'm like, all right, let the people in chat have a little. Let me just say what Vicky says. JJ, also a lot of Fortinet. Florence says no Netgear and enterprise networks, and Jeff Keighley says completely disagree. Let's see what else. Andre Dole, did you have extra use? Oh, that's another one. So I'd advise those of you that want to drive the show, you have the voting questions where you can vote them up or vote them down. If you want to hear JJ tell more about the 5-year-old, maybe you want to graduate to 6-year-old, so ask him another question. And he's here to appease, and I love it. So let's get some more networking questions in there and get some extraction from JJ's brain. All right, let's go to the next question for now.
Next question is from John Wallace. I'm going to be live streaming a golf simulator hole in run contest. It will all be held in one bay for 4 people. What's an affordable way to handle audio? I'll be using 4 FX30s for video.
Wow. I mean, the cheapest that I'm watching these YouTubers use is just those little DJI mics, and we've seen even CJ have those as well as Omar. So for the price, I mean, they work. I know I'm going to about to catch flack in chat from Mickey, but I'm waiting for his answer. You know, sometimes you just want to hire a sound person and go get out the big guns and then mic everybody up with proper electrodes and have nice, depending on if they're wearing t-shirts, have appropriate little holders so that you can put discrete clothing options and hide mics. So a professional sound person will have all of this stuff at the ready. You also have, better wireless like Electro or WizzyCom. So for something like this, if you want to buy gear, then you're probably in like the Sennheiser range with like the EW series, the EWD. I know Ronnie Hofso is using those. And then do you want to mic up each person individually and have them wireless, or do you just want a boom op to just follow them around? And that way you can have them be, running and gunning and not worried about having to, if they go off, you can have somebody follow them, and is this for a record? Because then you need time code, and there's other variables that start to come into play as this. How many cameras? You said 4 FX30. So I'd be concerned about how are you going to bring the audio in. So if you don't have a sound mixer, you could just put one wireless on each camera, and then you'd have, if you've got like I have these little deity timecode pieces that basically you sync them. You have an app and you sync them, and then that same, as long as you got the same frame rate and everything, there's a master, and it just pushes that timecode out. So when you get into post, you could align all those. JJ, you got something to say on this one?
Yeah. So this goes back to I was mentioning earlier, like the cheap free good. That conversation. I think when you say affordable way to handle audio, what's the cost of having terrible audio? The cost, and I ran into this about 3 weeks ago. I bought affordable microphones for a production, and every 5 minutes the microphones would start. We just get stuck in this bizarre loop, and it cost us 2 days of trying to fix a terrible issue. So that said, I saw recently, I think it was John Tatoulis who came on maybe about 2 years ago, and he introduced the new sound devices units that are just beautiful. And this may be an opportunity for you to go ahead and blame the project for a new addition to your arsenal of audio things. Because those things had excellent tuning. They are licensed frequencies, as I recall. So having those available to you for other projects and affordable. And when you say one bay, I'm guessing you mean you have one RU rack that you're going to put everything on the back of a golf cart, which also be kind of cool. I really want to go out there for this because this looks like a lot of fun. If it's a hole-in-one contest, I could just imagine people running around. Anyway, it sounds like a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of fun to trick out a golf car or golf cart with all the things that would be necessary to live stream this.
So is he saying a golf simulator? So is that like the one where they project it on the wall, so they're not actually outdoors on a field? So okay, so it's indoors, so we're not traveling around. And then Mickey in the chat's saying it would have 3 shotguns. So again, this is a live stream. I was thinking if it had to go to post too. So Mickey's saying 3 shotguns. So you got one of these, and you're just like going out there. And so it depends on how crazy you want to get, but sound is 50% of your project. So if you can hire in somebody that has 20,000 worth of tools and 20 years of experience, you're guaranteed to get good results. If you go and try and do all this yourself, a lot of times what happens is the camera op winds up getting called away to do something else, and then you got this cascading failure of, I took my headphones off for a second, and then those wireless hits came in, or whatever it was that ruined the audio, and it becomes a non-polished production, as we've even seen at NAB on our own projects. Audio is hard if you don't know how to do it, especially in an RF non-friendly environment like the NAB trade show floor. We even had Electros on there, but because we didn't have somebody that knew how to scan for open frequencies, we still hit. Even with the best gear, you can still, without the talent to run it, you can still run into issues. So just because you buy this fancy stuff doesn't mean that it's the holy grail and you're out of you're in the clear. It's still very much you need talent to run it. Just like what JJ was talking about with all this networking stuff. If I went in there and set up the topology, I'd be like, yeah, just get some Netgear and click this button. And JJ's like, no, thumbs down. All right, let's go to the next question.
From Chad Lafarge in Columbia, Missouri. What are the top few production tools you've seen or are aware of that were developed using AI?
JJ.
Please check out our weekly shows with Chris Sabato. This week in AI vibe coding. He has some really cool things he's just put together that, I said the word just, I'm sorry, 4-letter word, that he's put together using AI vibe coding. But also what I've seen is Sony cameras. Everyone's trying really hard to put AI tracking and into whatever the tool. So whether it be a Zoom tool, and what that means is and I've seen Moses has done a bunch of development in this area as well. Putting a wireframe around X number of locator dots on a person or a human, what it recognizes as a human. And the Moses ones are really cool because I have icons around me that you can't see in frame, and it recognizes in icons the characters inside of orthodox icons. So this iconography has 5 or 6 different people inside them, and so the Moses ones do a really good job. But then figuring out how to frame that, and that's the part where the training for AI needs to continue occurring. So folks like Danny Zemanek, who's a brilliant camera operator who's been following golf balls, I joke, since the 70s. People like that, training AI how to make a camera shot comfortable for human viewers versus what AI thinks is important, which is a whole body shot. So and teaching AI how to predict movement so people wander around on stage. So I've seen the work that's been done inside of camera tools. I think Sony right now has one of the better tracking tools, Sony and Moses. And then again, come on weekly and watch Chris Sabato this week in AI with Chris Sabato.
Yeah, I'd say the top that I know of just off the top of my head, I would say D-Feedback, which uses AI to analyze a signal, which is becoming a popular tool. There's a show by Jen Landy, who's part of our Office Hours ecosystem, where he brought out Robert Scoville, and they did a session with the developer, and they talked about how they're using these pretty powerful PCs or Macs to, in real time, with low latency, be able to avoid feedback. And some of the tests that sample footage that they've put up is just amazing. And I'm in their Facebook group, so I see all these people buying like 8 channels and buying like these M5 MacBook Pros and pushing it to the limits because they have so many people that are walking around with wireless with open speakers in the room, big like stadiums. Like even the Mormon church, they were talking about how this guy has never been able to walk out into the crowd, and he's always wanted to do that. And he was able to do it with a lav, not a head-worn mic, with a lav. So interesting to not have that, preacher look with the big visual boom, because if you've got these long lenses, big pieces of glass, you can really, those head-worn mics really stand out. Tony Robbins is like, his is monstrous, and I guess after a while it fades away. But for those that want that look, suit and tie with the lav and pretty discreet and polished, then that is a tool that's one that was developed using AI. Another one is this thing called visual reasoning by PTZ Optics. If you go to their GitHub, you could tell that a lot of it was vibe coded. They gave away a bunch of free tools to go in there, and they're using something called Moondream, and Moondream will let you use their API to describe to you what's out. If I was a little more prepared, in fact, if you put in the question, I could show it to you, where I have a PTZ Optics camera facing, well, right now it's picking up a field that is, the autofocus is on the glass. I was going to say, like, hey, AI, what's out there? But it's going to say, rain. It looks like rain. But basically what visual reasoning is, it allows you to do things like that, say, auto-track the XYZ object that is out in that field of view. So you could, or even some things not in the field of view. Like I have a poster here of a city council for practice. So I ask it, like, go get the mayor, and the visual reasoning will look at all the pictures. And because these people it's a poster, but it'll have their nameplates in front, and it'll go and find the mayor based on the nameplate, and it'll zoom in on the mayor. And then it's still learning. I'm still teaching it, but it's like, hey, is that centered enough? And I'm like, no, that's not centered. That's like off. Like, make it professional. And it's like moving the PTZ Optics camera. So, and then some news this morning. Paul Richards is stepping down from PTZ Optics, so we wish him the best in whatever his next endeavors are. Yeah, the only guy I know who's ever sold 1 million cameras. So good luck to you, Paul, and thank you for bringing about the new book on visual reasoning. I'll put a link in the chat to his new book. I have a feeling that he's doing some stuff in the future with AI, because he's gotten bitten by the bug like me, that my brain is going, the future is here and now, and there's an opportunity right now to code something cool. All right, let's jump to the next question.
Yeah, that's surprising. One of my early entries into OBS was reading his manual, the OBS Bible. Roz Humphreys in Comox, BC. What are your favorite AI compilation or hub tools for media creation? I just started a Higgsfield, very much upsell.
I am not familiar with Higgsfield compilation or hub tools. I'm not sure. Craig, you got anything on this one?
No, I was going to be snarky and say my own list of tools that I want and need. Building your own things is so fast and cheap that sometimes it's easier to build it than to go out and search for it. Even last year, I would start, if I have a need, I would start putting it into Google and doing searches in different platforms to look for a given tool or utility. And now it's like, I know exactly what I want. I don't need to search anything. I'll just build it, and 5 minutes later, I'll have it. And that's not an answer for everything, but it's surprising how much of my needs are taken care of just by that kind of approach. And so I'll come up with lots of ideas and put them into my app that I use to track all of that. And so I find myself going to these hubs and areas a lot less than I used to.
Gotcha. Let's go to the next question. Next question is from Chuck Hodges in Tuolumne, California. Guy, you said you used to teach FCP, but don't do it now. What was your path through industry from high school to where you are now? What steps do you recommend doing or skipping along the way? Is REMI really a best income work now, or is there a better?
I see 3 questions in there, and I'm going to try to condense this down. The short path was, in high school, I got into something called the Running Start program, which was graphic arts production technology. So that's where I learned things like Quark Express and PageMaker and Photoshop, and this was version 1 of Photoshop. And from there, I worked at a service bureau, and at that service bureau, I was doing a lot of retouching in Photoshop using a Wacom tablet. And I was like 18, 19 years old. And then in that building, there was a Avid editor, and he said, learn, Photoshop, learn this. And he handed me the After Effects box. And at the time, that was a $2,000 app and had a little dongle, ADB dongle. Some of you remember those ADB dongles for those expensive apps. So you had to plug that into your computer. So I wound up buying this $4,000 Power Computing, which was a Mac clone at the time, and started my own business and wound up getting into, this was the early days of DV, like 1999, wound up getting into teaching people Final Cut, and DV Creators was the Final Cut like masters of the era. So they hired me as a trainer. So I wound up teaching Final Cut in every major city across the United States, Canada, Mexico, Africa. So I got to teach for years and years and years. And then from there, I created a store because all these students kept asking, and most of them were college professors, kept asking, where do I buy that XYZ thing, those hard drives, those lights that you recommend? So I created a store, which I grew to a pretty popular store, but COVID knocked it out, so I had to shut that down. And now I'm learning all about, with you fine folks, all about this stuff like REMI, and that has actually been a big portion of my income, has been being able to remotely TD a show. So, I have on my Shocks headset, and I'm listening to a director, and I'm just cutting shows based on what they say, and I can work from home. And then I'll go out and also do camera operation work with PTZs, some of the higher end ones, the UE 150s, and that's. So what would I recommend skipping along the way? I don't know. It's Steve Jobs says you could only look back, and I wouldn't be here sitting in front of you fine folks if it wasn't for everything that fell into place. So I'm thankful for all the stuff that's happened, the good and the bad. Not having the big store now allows me to focus on this and give back to the community, because this is very much I'll call it a servant role right now, a servant leadership role, because I'm doing this for free. I'm giving you guys a big gimme, because you wouldn't believe how much the consulting income. So I do freelance, plus I do consulting, and then I do the REMI stuff. So, but this is taking up an enormous amount of time just to get the ball rolling back in the right direction. So I appreciate the opportunity and the question. Let's go to the next one.
From Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York, is NDI Bridge one of the best ways to get 720p video and 128 audio bitrate feeds to a remote site? Internet speeds at both sites are appropriate for this.
Go ahead, JJ.
128 audio bitrate. That's the part I'm not certain of, because I'd have to go look and see what NDI supports. The answer is kind of. Yes, it's a great way to get the transport from one location to another, but depending on the design. So you say the internet speeds are appropriate, but what about the reliability of the connection at each location? When you're relying on a single point-to-point over the public internet, there's no guarantee. There's no service level agreement when you leave one facility to another unless they are both the same carrier. So if Comcast's location A and Comcast's location or whatever is the same carrier at both locations, then you have a service level agreement that would provide a failover between location A and Z. So my answer is generally Zoom, because I'm using now multiple, and not just because they're what's it called here, and we've worked with them, but having seen when something fails, the fact that a single facility, if it fails, the path of that location, I'm going to a facility where I can actually modify and play with. This show is Zoom ISO, and that's the functionality of the office hours daily show and the office hours daily infrastructure, which now hundreds of people have copied because it is the best way to do a show. Everything else, they're great. It's good for smaller productions if you don't want to be serious. But if you want to be serious, this infrastructure we use for our daily morning shows is one of the best types of infrastructure that one could possibly build. And it relies on Zoom at its core. So yes, NDI Bridge is one of the best ways. It's considered a broadcast transport protocol, and it has within it lots of tuning that's spent by Roberto Musso, Dr. NDI. They've done a lot of development to continue to iterate and make it better. Like I was playing with new Discovery app that exists within it. So one can modify sources, and actually you can modify your routing. I didn't know this. I was watching one of Michael Lang's videos a couple days ago, Jonas's partner, and you can modify the routing from within NDI Discovery app, not the Discovery server, but the app itself that's now part of the 6.2 library of fun things to do. So yes, it's great. 128 audio bitrate. I'd have to go look. I had to go look inside to verify that. But again, NDI is considered a transport protocol. You might want to consider using Zoom though.
Well said. Yeah, it's amazing now, especially with our enhanced media, the inroads are really forming now that there isn't this box that we used to sell when I was a new tech dealer. We used to have this Skype TX box that was a couple $1,000, and it gave you 1 channel or 4 channels. When the 4 channel was like $9,000. And it's amazing now. You kids have it so easy. You just get Zoom ISO and a DeckLink card, and you're outputting SDI from all the way up to 12 megabit now. So if your account's enabled, there is a fee. Now, if you've got big budget, you can go Makito X4s, and you could crank up the bit rate on those things up to 50 megabit. And if you want, 720. I mean, are you talking 720 60 HDR, or what are you talking? So NDI Bridge is something that I have here running for a client. So in addition to the other stuff that I do, I have what we call the Cochrane Cloud here. So I have an NDI Bridge machine that just stays on 24/7, and they're able to push stuff in and back out. So what's happening is there's a port that's exposed. So this is the downside to NDI Bridge, is you have to open up a port. Somebody has to open up a port. In this case, I open up the port so that the joiner can come in, and they don't have to open up a port on their side. So they could be out on the field, whether it be in over cellular or whatnot, because over cellular, it's very tricky to try and get an open port. So you need to have that open port or a way to turn it. And then that machine's going to have a good GPU in it. The other options that you could do are, besides SRT, there's JPEG XS, there's a couple AWS ingest engines that you could look at that are more on the high end as well. But yeah, Zoom right now is rocking and rolling. We use it here every day, so thankful for them to have them as a sponsor, and thankful for the ability to test things like 1080p 60, which is coming. It's coming for the masses. The 23rd is when it'll be publicly available on the website. So jump over there and subscribe as soon as it comes online. $25 a month. Let's go to the next question.
Paul Przykowski from Gainesville. I need to calibrate some monitors LED panels for backgrounds in a production. I was told to get a colorimeter and spectrometer. Any recommendations, selections, and better to buy or rent?
Good question, Paul. I would say to hire a professional if it were me and have them come out and do it. And hopefully they only have to do it once, and then you don't have to buy those tools. Because I have a spectrometer. Mine was about $1,900. It's called a MK350. Do I have it nearby? I don't. Basically, it's a tool that it's pretty geeky stuff too. So you got to know how to tweak all these different things. And this is where having those years of experience is kind of just like what we were talking about with the sound guy. Do you bring in, or sound person, I should say, do you bring in that person that has that technical expertise to go ahead and dial those things in? JJ.
So at DCA, we have one of the things we do is calibrating monitors, calibrating volumes. But we send our folks to the training sessions because each of the vendors, they can be very different. Here, Ross, for instance, in Sacramento, there's a facility that they specialize in their monitors, and each, depending on what the panels are, who the manufacturers of the panels are, it may be cheaper and more effective for them to do it, or have someone come out and do the calibration. Yeah, especially if it's long term. So it looks like this is backgrounds of production. So for long term production, I would have someone come in and guarantee that the calibration was done per the spec of that particular vendor, because it will depend on vendor to vendor. That said, though, if you can, while they're there, figure out what they're using for their calibration, and then take notes, put that in the budget for the next project, and figure out what those are, and get training from them, because, as I mentioned, the LED manufacturers, they will be particular in how each of their technologies are built. Just like Shure versus Sennheiser's. The tools used and the spectrum that is used by those devices will be different.
Yeah, I remember watching at one of these big TEDx events, them going through the calibration process of those walls, and they had all these charts and everything up, and a lot of people were paying attention. It was for a pretty big gig, so when you looked at the in-room, it's called McCaw Hall. Actually, Tlaloc was just at McCaw Hall. It's a big, beautiful theater, and there were some pretty important guests on the stage, so you were able to not only see all the charts and everything going through this process, but you're able to see them dialing in the color of the camera. So you're really talking about two things here. You're talking about the LED wall for the in-room people, the in-room audience, so that needs to be accurate. But then how do your cameras see that? So the spectrometer can tell you, depending on what settings that they have on that monitor as a basis, like let's say they put 5600K. So that gives you a basis. So a white at 5600K should be a white on the camera as well. So when they bring up their PowerPoint, if they're describing something in detail, people look correct. The colors are correct, especially if it's one of these like Pantone colors that are, they want those to look as accurate as possible. So it depends on how crazy you want to get, because you could really dial in some of this stuff. And then what pitch, and do you have OLPF on your cameras so that you're not getting that crazy moire? Because sometimes it's like, all right, you got great color, but now what you bought a UE 150 instead of a UE 160, which has the OLPF. So you get this moire, which is very hard to fight against if you don't have the right equipment. Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. I'm finally doing what I should have done years ago, and I'm learning QLab. There's a lot of learning content about it. Where is the best place to start to incorporate PTZ cams and X32, vMix, EasyWorship, and Companion?
Wow. JJ.
I'm going to give you a weird answer because it seems to be a weird question. In that, where's the best place? Halloween. So at Halloween, put a bunch of PTZ cams around your house. Make sure that you've got Companion running early on, because you will absolutely want to have Companion running on any computer that can access the PTZ cameras. Make sure, as mentioned earlier, have a functioning network inside your facility. vMix. Figure out ways how to scare the kids in the neighborhood as they come and capture their faces as they come up to your front door for Halloween. Or if you have access to a facility like a church, and you could put PTZ cameras in a church. Not everyone likes to have PTZ cameras in a church. I know that my house of worship, not everyone wants to be on camera. It's kind of weird. But the best place to start to incorporate PTZ cameras for me is my neighborhood, my house. I put PTZs around my house, and I've got cameras, and I play with lots of different things at home, because then I don't travel anywhere to go lab anything. I just grab something from off the shelf and start playing with it. So that's where the best place to start would be, home.
Yeah, I'd say also jump into After Hours. There's a couple people that have QLab that are pretty good. We did a couple shows on them. I don't have a license, but Mickey had some good advice. If you get the rentals and you have a customer that helps you pay for it, then you could have your own license. I'm developing something, just kind of doinking around, playing with this ability to have a single pane of glass where you have the ability to video switch. So this controls my ATEM. I can record, stop, stream. I can do side-by-side. 2-up pips, and then I could control the audio. I could control my PTZ cameras. I could even ask it to describe what is in the frame. This was that PTZ optics thing I was talking about, or find or track, and then control lighting and DMX. And then I have some production macros for if you want the lighting and everything to change all at once. So if you're a solo person, you could just press one thing and it'll adjust the audio, the video, all with one press. Go to the show open. So it's kind of QLab-esque. And then I have Zoom ISO where I can control that as well. But it's all vibe coded using MCP servers, so that for OAuth, and it's pretty cool. I wouldn't say QLab I'd love to be able to tie it into QLab so that all the run a show can actually trigger these things as it goes down. So if it says show opener is going to be the PowerPoint, and then from the PowerPoint we're going to go do a side by side, it all just starts to happen, and you're just hitting next. And ROS, Overdrive, and some of these other news type apps will allow you to do that kind of thing. I think we could maybe squeeze in one more. Let's try to hit Jason Roberts' Shaw's question and wrap it up.
From Jason Roberts Shaw, oops, I lost it. In Sarasota, Florida, recommendations for prescription lenses makers for inserts to use with Ray Neo or similar headset displays. And my recommendation is Zenni Optical. It's a local company here in town. Started over about 2 blocks away from where I live. It's one of those garage places that turned into, now you can see their Zenni logo on baseball and football and basketball uniforms. The guy who started was a friend of mine who passed away just 2 years ago now. And you call them up, talk to Joe Castang, who's in their IT department, and say you want the particular size of the lens, and he'll figure out the exact lens size you want. Because this manufacturer, they're a local company, but they're huge, and they have the ability to, with the new facility that we opened in Ohio in 2020. And I did the network infrastructure for them there. That he can get you the exact size to millimeter for the exact insert you want to use. So Zenni Optical, and you can find their phone number. His number is 415-226-1974.
You just had that number memorized and have it sitting on the edge of your tongue. Huh? All right, that's going to wrap up this Saturday session. Appreciate you guys on the panel coming on a Saturday. Hopefully we'll get a few more next week. This was a pretty tight one, but I think getting to let JJ expound on some of these longer formats was a joy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And I thank the crew. Thank you, JJ, for reading. Thank you, Alan Scott, as a question manager and RFI documenter, Robert Green, Peter Belbin, and whoever was doing the PSC stuff. We had people. Thank you, people. All the people on the back end and all of you who put in questions on today's Talalo Traversal. We have... this is episode 2181, 30,000 miles, 48,000 kilometers, and 236 million bananas for scale. With that, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, the guy who started is Tibor Luxai. He's a Hungarian. Let's see if it's...
I love the talk to Joe. You want to talk to Joe?
Yeah, talk to Joe. Joe Castang. There you go. Credits. The Joe Castang over there. He's worked there since 2006, 2007. So he's been there for a while now, and the thing I was inspired by with Tibor is you want to have a mission statement similar to Mr. Musk, finding a way to get human beings to move to Mars. That was the mission statement. Tibor's mission statement was putting Luxottica Corp out of business. I think it's just great. Like figuring out how to create a business model so that a single monopoly no longer has control over all of our glasses, and these are Zenni Opticals. Zenni Optical. And the other thing about Zenni Opticals is super affordable.
It just dawned on me that I own some of those as well for my Meta Quest, where it's the little inserts that were put in there were Zenni Optical. For some reason, the Ray, what did she put in there? Ray.